5, 4. We're actually live. So for anybody who is watching this later and seeing it start now, we start a little early and give everybody a chance to get here, give people a chance to share the video. So the actual discussion will start after 7, maybe around 7:05. So while everybody's getting a chance to share things. Jerry and I started the conversation. You know, normally I ask just a BS question just to take up some time. And we started talking about, I was asking her what she was drinking. It was just water. All you got over there is water, Jeria?
Yep.
You got anything to drink, Michael?
No, but my wife was just so gracious as to bring me one of these.
Wow, look at that.
So when I do get something to drink, I'm going to take it on a maiden voyage.
Oh, he's got the merch. Well,
I've got the merch.
I've been keeping the merch here, right? You know, when we take the sign down and stuff, we can definitely show the merch. Make sure you got any merch yet, Jeria? You got to order some merch.
Yes, I have to order some. I'll order some.
Got to support the brand.
Yes.
I always have way too many beverages because I get thirsty, and then I always end up having to pee halfway through the show. But this is my attempt at making iced coffee at home. And then I always have water, and then I always have 0-calorie flavored water.
Why do you have it so much?
Environment?
What'd you say? I didn't hear either one.
I said you're killing the environment out here. All those bottles. You need to get a Brita.
Number 2, why are you hydrating so much? What is taking so much out of you during this broadcast that you feel like you gotta have 3 beverages to hydrate and stuff?
I'm always drinking a lot of fluids.
You might need to get checked. That's a sign of type 2 diabetes.
No, I've been checked. My blood work is good. What's up, Charles? Charles Hayes is here.
You got sugar in your blood. You got high sugar.
No, my sugar is okay. I'm in the habit of drinking a lot of fluids, but especially now. Go ahead, Michael. What are you gonna say?
I'm just being facetious, man. But I mean, on the real, I went. I went along with the program, and when we got a Brita filter, and I haven't really looked back. Also, there's a lot of speculation on what's going on with that water, the bottled water. So I mean, I'm not going to be a conspiracy theorist and whatnot, but I'm like, anything packaged in plastic is going to have a toxic angle to it. So you may be doing yourself a favor, you may not, and that's
the earth is dying, and I'm only 22. We don't need a bunch of water bottles laying around.
So
she's calling you old at 37.
She is. She's calling me out. First of all, Michael is right.
But there's no plastic bottles around here though.
Is that you leave these in the car, which I have the bad habit of doing, then chemicals from the plastic do seep into the water.
They leak in, man. But also, somebody told me recently that it's better with the filter because your body needs minerals, right? And so, actually, the water in the bottles with the plastic, there's something in there. There's a reaction that happens when you drink it. It tries to kill the minerals that are in your body. It's like it's in direct diametric opposition to the goal you were trying to. Jeria, why are you smiling?
I'm just laughing.
All right.
Jeria's seen the show, so she knows what she's in for.
Oh, so she's like, she's just like on the show. He's just kind of going off the tangent. I know I'm a cartoon character, Jeria. You can laugh at me.
We have the actual cartoon of Michael somewhere, if I can find it.
I'm sure my mouth is open in it.
The ones that that Sarah drew that I love so much.
Aquafina doesn't freeze. JT said Aquafina don't freeze. Well, there got to be something wrong with that. There's too much salt in it for it to freeze.
I think I found cartoon Michael. Let me see if I can.
And it's probably you couldn't tell the difference between me and it. Where is it?
I'm looking for it. I got to figure out.
It's probably such a strong likeness. You probably think it's a photograph. Yes.
So there's
somebody who's playing B flat.
Right, I should put a little bubble next to it, the little thought bubble. Yeah. I will say, in defense of myself, I usually refill these a couple times before I toss them. I used to refill them constantly, And I learned my lesson about that, because if you keep refilling the same water bottle, you'll get sick because you'll be recycling your own germs.
It's just a bad idea. Although, give up the ghost, Daniel.
See, I'm gonna have to throw my wife under the bus, because I never bought water bottles until I'm from Wisconsin, where we have great tap water. My wife's from DC, where they have terrible tap water, and so she won't drink anything but bottled water.
The Brita filter is the answer.
I bought one for our condo when we used to have a condo. She never used it. She kept drinking the bottled water.
Well, you ain't gonna tell the queen what to drink and what not to drink. So she'll have to get woke on that at her own pace. So I'm not going to admonish the queen during the broadcast. She can do it.
You can do that after the broadcast. Did you guys share the video? I was going to share it to a few places, and then Facebook told me that's enough. You know, Facebook's still restricting me a little bit.
You and Facebook are beefing, man. I keep telling you, we're going to have to seek you got to start finding another platform, man.
Well, we're on YouTube as well.
All right.
Anybody that wants to watch us on YouTube can watch us on YouTube.
Because the leash is going to get shorter and shorter.
Did you want to share the video, Jeria, to the Brown Deer Democrats group thing?
Yes.
Let's see.
And anyhow, you guys are just jealous of how hydrated I am. That's all it is.
Yes. Well, once again,
I'm hydrated with my water that has fluoride in it
as well. All right. Anybody who wants to watch us on YouTube can watch us on YouTube.
Because the leash is going to get shorter and shorter.
Did you want to share the? So that was.
Sorry.
We're back. That's okay. We're back.
I can't find where I share this.
I tagged you. Let me tag you one more time.
Okay. And this is the main account?
No, it's already on the main account. You just need to share it to the other account if you want to.
Okay. Well, then okay. Well, let me move to the other account.
Yeah, that's the only one that hasn't been.
I got you. The other one's already gone.
Right.
The primary account.
Yeah. For some reason, it's not letting me tag you in the secondary account anymore.
Ooh.
I think it's. You haven't used that one in a while, have you?
I was on it today, but they made me change the look of it and everything. Like Facebook.
Oh, I hate that.
Going through changes and whatnot. And okay, let me see if maybe this will do it.
I've
already gone. Yeah. I just can't. Oh, here we go. I think I found a way.
Got it.
Share the. Whoa.
Here we go. It's letting me tag you. I'm about to tag you, and
all right. Well, then
the tag will just pop up.
Let me retreat from this window. Okay, I just saw it. Mm-hmm.
Whose comment is that? Because when people comment in the group, the name doesn't come through. Whoever it is, put your name, because that's funny. I want to give you credit for that.
It's not cooperating, man.
Okay, well, if it isn't, we can move on. It's we got the.
Hold on, I think I may have figured out what went wrong.
Yeah.
Share now public.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I had to switch the music politics over to my personal.
Oh yeah, Okay, so let's officially start the show, ladies and gentlemen. So, first of all, welcome to Music Politics. If you don't have your merch, the link is right under the video. Make sure that you are also have liked and are following the Music Politics page. Join the Music Politics group, and I'm going to introduce the best co-host and best musician that I know other than Sonny Thompson, I guess I have to say technically on this show.
Sonny's the best musician. Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
I would for my money anywhere. So.
I would agree with that. But the best human musician that I know, let's say that, would be would be all the way over to my right, Mr. Michael Bland.
Okay, and he hails from Madison, Wisconsin. Wearing that yellow, and what now? What is that? That's a washed out black back on that yellow.
I think it's a little washed out. I think it's just supposed to be black.
Okay,
but
you got to go back to the drawing board on that.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's more the lighting. I think it's more the video lighting in my room than it is the actual. Because in person it looks pretty black. You've seen the here, just to show you on the
Okay.
On the white background, it's pretty clear.
All right. Crazy over merch. Rocking that Hammond every Sunday. Anointed. Knows the hymns, knows all the hymns, the gospel hymns. Knows a few of those newer ones that I don't care for, but that's all right. Not scared of black folks. He lives in the #1 state in the country for racial disparity.
That's true.
And black trauma. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Spiffy Newman, half dead Newman, survived COVID and everything. COVID tried to whoop you down, and you said on that ventilator.
I'm still here.
23 days in the hospital, 11 of them in a medicated coma.
Yep.
Came out of it. Praise God. God is the greatest. Dan Spiffy Newman, I'm happy you're still here.
Man.
And we're moving forward and doing things together. Please introduce these people to our illustrious guest.
I am very excited about this guest because how early on when we started doing this, Michael, did I say, wouldn't it be great to talk to a campaign staffer from one of the major presidential campaigns?
Yeah.
So it was one of the first things we discussed talking about, and I have a friend who I won't name who's on the Sanders campaign and didn't want to be on the show, and I was looking, and it turns out there was somebody in my own backyard the whole time, because this young lady who has worked for, I think, now 2 or 3 different 2 different national presidential campaigns, as well as the Wisconsin DNC, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I put in her bio and forgot, and is still a baby. I don't know how she's managed to do all of this so far. We're going to definitely get into that. But found out she was in my own backyard the whole time, because not only was she here in Wisconsin, but she goes to my church. So
going there, we said it was affirmative action.
So
all right.
Did you hear this? And it's funny because there's no other white people. Like in the church is what, like 1,000 members, and you turn around and it's just me.
I don't know if he's still alive or not, but like it was an old white guy, like really old.
Okay.
That's my favorite story, Dan, is when you came back out the hospital.
Did you hear that story, Jeria?
Yeah. We hired another white boy to play Hammond in the church. No, that's the same one. He been sick.
So, I was definitely the affirmative action hire there. So
that's all right. That's all right.
So before we get started about the serious topics, what that I didn't cover would you like to tell everybody about yourself?
I just would like to emphasize that my thoughts are my own, and they do not reflect the DPW. They do not reflect Biden for president. They don't reflect any organization that I work for. My thoughts are my own, and so that's all I have to say.
All right.
So, Alyssa says the other white guy moved away. So, I mean, tying the light topic together with the serious topic, Milwaukee is, I think, considered to be it's definitely the most segregated city in the North. It might be the most segregated city in the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
And then my church is right smack in the middle of the hood, which, I mean, anyhow, but it's a very black area that my church is in. So there aren't a lot of white people in that area.
All right.
To necessarily, unless they're going to commute in from the suburbs. So,
it's Kojic, right?
Right.
Well, white people Kojic? I guess a couple could be down south, maybe.
So here's a little bit of. We'll go off on a little bit of a tangent. A little bit of Church of God in Christ history is Church of God in Christ was the first evangelical denomination. First Pentecostal denomination, and Bishop Mason, who founded the Church of God in Christ, was actually over, all of the Pentecostal churches at that time, and he was black, and some of the bishops that he was over were black, and some were white, and some the white bishops essentially broke off because they didn't want to submit to a black leader, and they went off to found the white Pentecostal denominations, which later became the Christian right. So that's how we ended up getting all the right-wing, denominations that are very, pro-segregation, pro-Trump, Jerry Falwell and all of that. It all basically came out of white people not wanting to serve a black leader in the Church of God in Christ.
Well, it's laughable how crazy that is. First off, what do these white people think they're going to see if they get to heaven? They think they're going to have reserved seating or something?
You know that meme that keeps going around about how
who, Jesus? That name is going around, Daniel.
No, the meme that keeps going around about like what do racists think heaven is going to be segregated? I honestly think racists think that only white people will be in heaven.
Oh, like Ronald Reagan.
Maybe, I don't know. That's basically Jesus to them.
Yeah, like they get up there and Ronald Reagan ends up being God.
Yeah, when I worked on the Hill, I used to give tours of the Capitol, and in the Rotunda, which is like the center of DC, there's a statue of Ronald Reagan, and one family told their kid, "Look at this. This is the last good thing to come out of California."
What?
I mean, I wish I could say that's the worst thing I've heard. It's far from it, but yeah, that's a whole topic we'll have to get into someday on the show, is just how detrimental Ronald Reagan actually was, and they still hold him up as a hero. And there's so much that's wrong with the U.S. today that we can trace back to him and his policy.
Well, yeah, that kind of was in my memory, and I don't mind being the elder here. I'm 51 years old, so my memory of Reagan, it was like that was the real point where the war on the lower class and the minorities began. In my memory was when he got into office, a lot of the policies he was pushing for, and that to make America great again, that was him in the first place, which led, ultimately to, the insane disparity in drug laws and punishment, and just tanks going down, the street in DC and all of that, just picking a house and just bashing it down, under the pretense that, oh, we heard it was a drug den. We heard, that's where all that kind of started, that overt violence, and clearly a war on the poverty stricken, a war on, essentially just a war on us, So that's how I call it, and that's my living impression of that particular time, So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate, because you're a decade or so older than me. You have a memory of actually, witnessing. But what I was going to say is the other thing too is the Reagan tax cuts were kind of like, I don't want to say the beginning of the end for the American economy, but like that's, I mean, a lot of the things when we talk about income disparity and poverty and everything like that, that's where that started. And then, every Republican leader that we've had since then has built upon it. Yes. But I mean, I don't know how well versed everybody is in here and how the tax rates were back pre-Reagan, pre-Nixon. But it used to be that I wish I knew the number. If you made more than, let's just say, $1 million back then, you were taxed at a 95% tax rate for everything over that $1 million. Regular tax rate below, but basically it was to try to avoid there being a millionaire class. And and I believe that getting rid of that started with Nixon, but Reagan was really the main one that championed that and trying to even out the tax rate so that, essentially poor people would pay a similar tax rate to, the wealthy. But before we get too far off, so here's what I want to know, Jeria. I mean, there's a lot of things I want to know, but so, as Michael pointed out, Michael's the oldest. I'm not young, at least not next to you. I've been interested in politics my whole life, and I grew up with two parents that were very active and involved in everything like that. But even so, I don't think that by 22 I had a comprehensive enough understanding to really be involved in the issues, much less work for a campaign. Like, how young were you when you started to really understand what all is involved in this and that you wanted to be a part of it, and where did that come from?
Yeah, so I first got into politics my first introduction to politics was first grade. I vividly remember my first grade teacher giving us a mock election, and like she gave us a small list of things for first graders to understand for both candidates, for both Kerry and Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember
because you were in first grade for Kerry and Bush. I'm sorry, you're so young. Continue.
Yes. So I remember something about John Kerry. He was pushing for like affordable healthcare, like free healthcare or something. And yeah. I was a sick kid. I went to the doctor all the time. And I'm like, oh, like it didn't process to me that you had to pay to go to the doctor. So I'm like, oh, you can go to the doctor for free. Voted for John Kerry in the election. And he won in my classroom, obviously not in real life. Fast forward to 2008. I don't remember a ton about the about the Obama election. But I do remember my mom, she woke me up out of my sleep when they called it. Yeah. And she's like, come downstairs, like you need to see this. So people always like representation matters is always a like buzzword type of thing. But after I saw that, like I recorded everything that Barack Obama was on, everything Michelle Obama was on, everything his girls were on, and I just watched that nonstop. I learned more and more about it. By the time I got to high school, I was really involved in not involved, but like I was really interested in it. Politics and history. My dad graduated. My dad got his degree in history, so like he always pushed like knowing history. History is important. So I ended up taking every single social studies class in my high school. So I got involved that way, and then I wasn't like super involved. I wanted to be a lawyer, not a politician. Like that was not what I wanted to do. But election night 2016, I was in New Orleans. I remember waking up thinking it was a dream because I'm like, no way Donald Trump's gonna win. But like the next day I was depressed and like, but it ignited something inside of me. So in last summer, I applied for an internship with the DNC. They trained about 1,000 organizers, primarily of color, because it's really hard for people of color to get into the campaign business because we can't afford to lose our job every 6 months, every 9 months. So they made sure that they trained a bunch of we were all college juniors. So they made sure they trained all of us to do what we could to get involved. And then I worked a primary, and I'm now on the Biden campaign. So
okay.
There's a lot of little things you said there that like like you dropped a lot of little nuggets there that I want to try to pinpoint if I can remember them. One of them was that you pointed out that in order to work on a political campaign, you essentially have to be able to afford to lose your job every 6 months. Yes. And that's a huge barrier to poor people and people of color being in politics.
Yes.
Like I've never really thought about that because I'm thinking back to so I used to be obsessed with the show The West Wing. I used to love the show The West Wing, and back when it was still written by Aaron Sorkin. And then I remember there's a character on there who like sold her car and was like sleeping on the floor of whatever just to be a part of the campaign. But like you still have to be able to have a safety net to be able to do something like that. And I've never heard anybody talk before about that being a barrier to people of color in politics.
Yeah, it's truly a privilege. I know some Obama staffers were telling me they were in a tiny apartment because they were never home, out canvassing all the time. But like when you want to push for your candidate to win and like help make history, that's the sacrifice you have to make. But it's usually like me and you were talking, we don't know many Black Obama staffers because it's a privilege to even be able to do that, to have savings, to go without a job for months at a time.
Yes. Yes. I just want to say while I'm thinking about it, the fact that Election Day is still not a holiday, it really.
Yes. Well, I don't know who's off from Wisconsin, but in Wisconsin, you have a right to tell your employer 24 hours in advance that you are leaving either in the middle of the day or early for work or to go vote, and they cannot tell you no. That's against the law for them to tell you no.
Okay, good. Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
But that's not the case in every state, though.
No, not in every state. For sure in Wisconsin, I'm not. It's that way in some other states. I'm not sure. I'm just super familiar with the Wisconsin voting.
Yeah,
sure.
So how old were you when Trump won?
I was 18.
So you had just graduated high school.
Yes, I was in my freshman year of college.
And so that was kind of a pivotal thing for you in terms of deciding what you wanted to do.
Yes, because I had my mindset. I was going to go be a lawyer. But Donald Trump, people voted him in, and I said I was going to do everything in my power to vote him out because I'm a Black woman. As a woman, I cannot afford another 4 more years of Trump. As a Black person, I cannot afford another 4 more years. As a person in the middle class, like, there are so many people who look like me, not even just being Black or woman, but being middle or lower class who could not afford him for another 4 more years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody over here is saying that it's true nationally that you can get 2 hours off too.
I was looking up Aaron's question because that's a great question. Wisconsin is right to work now. It didn't used to be. Scott Walker, our illustrious former governor, did that. And I mean, I haven't heard of any examples of that happening. I wouldn't be surprised if it has, that you say you're taking time off to go vote and and you're fired for an unrelated reason or no, they don't give you a reason. You know anything about that, Jeria, since you brought that up?
I'm not super familiar with Scott Walker since I was so young when he was in office. So yeah, I'm not super familiar with his policies. But
I mean, have you heard of any examples of that happening where somebody was terminated for an unrelated reason, after voting, essentially?
Oh no, I haven't heard of that.
I haven't either, but I wouldn't put it past.
Yeah.
Again, it is
like northern counties wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah. So you currently work for the Biden Harris campaign. Can you take us through a little bit of your journey that got you there? Because I know you've worked for one other candidate and you worked for the Wisconsin DNC before. I've seen on your social media that you were supporters of both Warren and Harris before Biden got the nomination. So, can you take us through a little bit of, and even maybe if you're allowed to say, or if you can say, who you might have wanted to be the nominee, before it necessarily went to Biden?
Yeah, we're not trying to get nobody in no kind of trouble.
Yeah, so I'm actually
Good trouble.
I'm technically an employee of the Biden campaign, but I'm an employee of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin. So I'm not just working to elect Biden. I'm working to elect Democrats up and down the ticket. But Biden wasn't my first or second choice. I was supporting Senator Harris, and then I was supporting Elizabeth Warren. And this is just like a backstory. I met Senator Harris when I was, I think it was October, November, and I told her about the internship I had this summer because all the candidates knew about it. I told them about the internship, and I told her that I said, hopefully I will work for you in the general election. And she corrected me. She looked me in my eyes and she said, no, you will work for me. Now I work for her. But yeah, so Senator Harris was my first choice. I worked for a independent expenditures campaign, which is like they have the same goal as us. They just can't work with the Democratic Party. So that was Wisconsin organizing together. It was just helping to build capacity for the general election. So we're talking to people, figuring out how people vote typically and things like that to build capacity. But also so then I finally, after my semester was over, I applied with the Democratic Party of Wisconsin and interviewed, got hired. And then after, I think it was June, when Joe Biden like technically got enough delegates to win the nomination.
Mm-hmm.
So early on, you said your original pick was actually Harris, who ended up getting the VP nomination, as we know. Why was she your first choice for the nomination?
I really loved her in the Senate. The way she makes white men cry all the time. The way she grills them. She's one of the most progressive members in the Senate. She's pushed for so many issues. She's actually only the second Black woman ever to be a senator, a U.S. senator, but she pushed for all these Black agendas. And I felt seen, I felt represented.
Yes.
Do you have any examples off the top of your head of some of the, you talked about the necessarily Black agenda that do you have any like bills off the top of your head? If you don't, it's okay.
Yeah, making the lynching a federal crime was her bill. The criminal justice bill that passed maybe 2 years ago was also her bill. Also, this isn't technically the Black agenda, but like socioeconomics goes into this. That $600 a month that people were receiving on unemployment was her.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I knew that. And that's been a very hot topic too, because there's a lot of people that have issue with that, which has been pretty ridiculous to me. Like, why? I think the people that have issue with it have probably never been on unemployment and don't understand that unemployment is not just being handed your regular wage and you're sitting at home. First of all, you're getting much less than your regular wage. And then second of all, there's certain milestones that you have to meet to even just remain on unemployment and so on and so forth. And the fact that so many people are unemployed due to the pandemic, that's a whole nother topic. But speaking as somebody who has been grateful that my wife and myself have both kept our jobs and our incomes through the pandemic, I fully support, the extending of the unemployment benefits and the additional, because not everybody's been that lucky or that blessed, and the whole, it could have been me.
Yeah. And also, like, instead of being upset with the people who are receiving an extra $600 every week, be upset with the system that is making it impossible for people to live off of minimum wage or even off of $15, $20 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So you started with you didn't work for Harris, but you supported her initially while you were working for the DNC at that time, or the Wisconsin DNC.
Yes, I was neutral at the time, but yeah.
That was okay. I know you told me that you worked for another presidential campaign. We can't really talk about that, but can you at least let everybody know what you can say?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh, I thought you told me you could at least say who it was and why you can't talk.
Moving on.
I can't say who it is, but I can say why I can't talk. I signed an NDA and I can't speak about the NDA.
Okay. I thought you could say who it was. My apologies. I wouldn't have brought it up. Okay. So yeah. So now, so you were working for, well, actually, can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing on Capitol Hill before you came to work for the Wisconsin DNC?
Yeah, I was an intern in Congresswoman Gwen Moore's office. I was working with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. They, again, being an intern on the Hill, usually unpaid, is a privilege that most Black and brown people don't get to experience because you can't afford, our parents don't have savings accounts to allow us to live or allow us to have someplace to stay and to eat for 16 weeks on the Hill.
Right.
So the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, they hire about 20-ish interns each semester to work in a member of the Congressional Black Caucus in one of their offices. So I worked with Congresswoman Gwen Moore. We were paid and we were housed, which was really nice. It was just like to get our foot in the door. I learned that I never want to work on Capitol Hill unless I'm an elected member. But I did a lot of cool networking with members of Congress. I was actually featured on Ayanna Pressley's Facebook page. She posted a picture of her glasses because a mom saw her with her glasses and was like, show pictures of your glasses. And so I posted a picture of my glasses and I was like, representation matters. So she sent me she took my picture and put it side by side with her. And she was like, girls who wear glasses get elected.
Uh-huh.
That's cute. Alyssa wants to know, or she probably already knows, but she wants you to talk about.
Yeah, I got involved with the Congressional Black Caucus because I just apply. Like, I apply for things, and I'm like, the worst they can tell me is no. It's been proven women, especially Black women, tend to under apply for things they don't think that they're qualified for, while white men apply for things that they're extremely underqualified for. So I always just applied for things, and I'm like, worst they could say is no.
Right.
But they said yes, and I got it.
So I didn't even know that was a thing, too. So you were technically, I mean, you were an unpaid intern on Capitol Hill, but the Congressional Black Caucus actually paid you as well as provided housing for you.
Yes.
That's a really great opportunity that I think a lot of people probably don't even know is there. How did you find out about it?
Sometimes I just like search the web and like, hey, what can I get involved in? I am a busybody overachiever, so I'm like, I'm always looking for the next cool thing to get involved in.
So that was literally something you found just searching the internet?
Yes.
Well,
and I actually told my advisor at school, told me like, don't apply. You're not. My GPA was like a 3.2. It's like, your GPA isn't high enough. Don't apply. But when they like told us the rankings that we got, I was number 3. And everyone in my cohort, they either had graduated college, was in grad school. They were looking for jobs while I was there just like to explore what I wanted to do with my life.
Sure.
Like, it wasn't a safety net for me.
Mm-hmm.
So a 3.2 isn't considered high enough? I mean, I guess I'm trying to think back to the days of being in school. I guess 3.5 was kind of, but 3.2 still, that's a B plus average, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cutthroat, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, there's just so much little stuff here that I didn't even know. Like, I had no idea that was even an opportunity that was out there. And I mean, I guess that's something that, like, do you know any people that are, but a few years ago that might be interested in that opportunity coming forward that you can tell about? Like, is it?
Yeah. So I have about 2,000 Twitter followers, but like, I post often, like, hey, if you're interested in political science or political internships or legal internships, text me, give me a call, and I send them, because you are only strong as like the next woman with you. I believe in bringing up everybody with me, because if you are the only person in the room, that's not diversity, that's not inclusion, that's tokenism.
Well,
Aaron made a good point here that's something that, I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else. And again, me going to high school was back, 20 years ago almost. But I mean, it was 20 years ago. But I found my guidance counselors in high school to be pretty useless.
Yeah.
Do you remember your guidance counselors in high school, Michael?
Yeah, and they were always trying to tell me music and mathematics are on the same side of the brain. How come you don't excel more in them? I'm like, they may be. It's not. But my main sympathizer and protector during high school was my band teacher, my band director, Denny Malmberg. He watches sometimes.
I've seen him.
Yeah, he was really the person who gave me, other than my father and my drum instructor, but Floyd Thompson, Denny Malmberg was the one I saw day to day. He's the one that really prepared me for a life in music, because he really believed that I had the talent and the potential. So once the other teachers realized that a lot of what they were trying to teach me while I was sleeping in their class, because I had only gotten home at 3:00 in the morning from the gig the night before, was like, this young man is preparing himself for something else. So it was weird. It was like the pressure just kind of let up, and they just let me be who I needed to be. Now, I don't know how good that was for the educational institution, but for me, I had already surrendered my life to music by the time I was 13 or 14. So I knew where I was going, successful or not. That was where I was headed. And I realized as I've gotten older and talked to people, and even my own stepdaughters, I've realized that a lot of people don't have that insight or foresight. They don't really know what they're going to do in the world. So I consider myself, blessed to have been, indoctrinated. It just all came. Once I said yes, every opportunity I needed opened for me.
Certain things, and I think music is definitely one of them, and I think that being involved in political stuff the way that Jeria is the same thing. I wouldn't even say it's a calling. It's kind of like I don't know what to even call it. You have no choice. Like once you start investing in it, there's like it doesn't matter what other opportunities there are or what else you're good at. This is the only path now. I don't know what to call it. It's certain when you have a calling, you either answer it or you suffer.
That's right. That's right.
I think in a way, I am after this election cycle, let me correct myself. When the Biden campaign wins, hopefully I get a job in the administration for a little bit. But after that, I want to venture out to something different. I probably want to get into communications or something different. Once you have anything more than a basic understanding of politics, it becomes stressful. It becomes miserable. It's just.
I did want to ask you, when you said you were talking about working on Capitol Hill and you said you never want to do that again unless you were an elected official. Can you go into why?
They are overworked. They're underpaid. The hours are long. I absolutely hate DC. I hate DC with a passion. They ask you what you do before they ask your name. Yeah, I just can't do it. Or not on the Hill.
My wife's from DC.
Yeah.
So I don't know. On the one hand, I don't know how you hating DC is going to go over. On the other hand, the whole pretentiousness of asking what you do before. Yeah, that's very.
I don't think Nia is going to feel some kind of way about it. I live in Minnesota. A whole bunch of people man, how can you do it?
Yeah.
So there's no need for her to take it personally. I believe she's more developed and mature as a human than that.
There's my father-in-law, also from DC. So yeah, I mean, I've heard some of the horror stories about how little you make and how little you sleep. Mm-hmm. Although that sounds like any other passion career.
Yeah, and it's also just a bunch of white, disrespectful men there. The amount of microaggressions I received.
Ooh.
There was someone in the office. The congresswoman asked me to ask him something, or no, another person in the office asked me to ask him something. I went to go ask him. He told me to go away like I was a dog. So I repeated it to the congresswoman, and he said, go away. And I was like, yeah, she told me. So secret to working on the Hill, you get so much free food. So she told me to go to a certain office because they had a bunch of soul food from the CBC meeting. And I came back and he was very apologetic. But the way that he spoke to me, not even just him, but a lot of men on the Hill in general, the way that they spoke to me, and they spoke to me in ways they would never speak to another white man.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine that if you didn't work for a Black female representative, that probably would have ended very differently.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a white man being disrespectful to you in the workplace, and both of your boss is a Black woman, is going to be a different kind of accountability than if you both worked for a white woman or a man.
Yeah, and I was actually the only Black intern in the office as well. Well, the only intern of color in the office, period.
So it's interesting because then you brought up communications too, as which to me, and again, not being involved and interested, invested in politics and all that goes along with it, but not actually being a part of it, that seems like very much the same thing in terms of it seems like that a career in communications and a career in politics seem very much side by side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first thing that I think of is that every politician has a communications director and has a press secretary.
Yeah.
That.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kind of the thing.
Yeah. So like that, very true. I'm looking more so, and also everything you do is political, whether you are in politics or whether you're in entertainment, everything that you do is political. But I'm looking more so into like crisis management type of communication. So like I'm very behind the scenes, but also like in a way to like, I don't want to say put out propaganda because I sound like Donald Trump, but like put out propaganda to sway the opinions of people who maybe have like the worst day of their lives, or like just to prove that people aren't the worst things that they've ever done.
So you're almost talking about like kind of what, at least at the start of the show, what Olivia Pope was before it went off into a whole sex and everything else. But like a fixer behind the scenes, basically.
Yeah, she's based off of Judy Smith. She actually fixed Kobe's rape allegation. She fixed that, and if it was not for her, people my age would not have. If Kobe hadn't died, people my age would not have even known that he had a case.
Wow.
I couldn't remember her name, but Judy Smith. Yeah, I actually know somebody that does that. And I'll connect you with her. That she's a Black woman that's a fixer, and I don't know if she's seen the show yet or not, but I'll put you in touch with her. So how far did we get? We got to working on the Hill, working for the DNC, and we kind of made it up to Biden, which is, like you said he wasn't your first choice. He wasn't a lot of people's first choice, but he clearly was a lot of people's first choice as well, because he got
in on that. So I hope there are no Bernie supporters here. I'm not throwing shade or anything, but when Biden started winning these southern states, a lot of talk from like the progressive, like the extremely progressive side was that the establishment was pushing Joe Biden. Well, Black people are not some mythical creature called the establishment. Black people supported Joe Biden at extremely high numbers. And it's not, maybe because he was their first choice, maybe not, but Black people always vote based on electability, because we don't know what they're going to do in the voting booth. And that's what happened in 2016. They voted for Bernie Sanders because they knew that white men would secretly support Hillary out in public, but then they would go and support Trump in the voting booth. So Black people voted on electability rather than who they actually wanted to vote for, because we have so much to lose in this election.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming there's actually statistics to back that up, that for example, that white men would say that when they're polled that they're voting for Hillary Clinton, then go in the voting booth and vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, and then just like piggybacking off of the electability thing, a conversation I had with my grandfather, I asked him, like, this was when it was like 20 people in the race. I'm like, Papa, who are you supporting? And he goes, I really like Senator. No, he calls her Senator Harrison. My papa's like 65. He calls her Senator Harrison. So I really like Senator Harrison. He was like, but white people aren't going to vote for her, so I'm just going to vote for Joe Biden.
It's interesting because I have always have I have my elder hive mind that I talk to whenever I'm trying to make up my mind about something political, especially if it's national. I like to talk to people that I look up to in terms of, not only do I respect them and their opinions and their perspectives, but also people that have been around a lot longer than I have, or than maybe even necessarily than Michael has, and I always kind of I like to get the wisdom of the elders, so to speak. And for the most part, for the people that I know, it's it's Black elders, but also my parents. I trust their opinion on a lot of things, and and there's my in-laws for sure. I asked our pastor, and the only person that I knew. So my mom is a public school teacher. So even though she's 70, she tends to a lot of the teachers are not. And a lot of the teachers are very progressive, and so she tends to skew more towards the young progressives because of that. Everybody else that I spoke to was pretty. Whenever I'd ask them about national political campaigns, they'd usually go with the safe choice, And I remember asking a lot of people. And if one of them was my father-in-law, and I'm wrong, he'll correct me because he watches the show. But I asked a lot of people that have been around for a long time what they thought of Bernie Sanders, for example, and the response that I got from the elders was usually, well, he's been around for a long time, and we still haven't seen what he's done. Versus Joe Biden, who has been around for a long time and has a huge track record of what he's done. Some good, some bad, a lot in between. And a lot of people considered him to be a safe choice.
Yeah, also just like the whole idea of Black and brown people have been promised the moon every single time every election. Promised the moon, nothing happened. Promised the moon, nothing happened. So with Joe Biden, he's moved more left, but like at the beginning, he was talking about just going back to the status quo type of thing. So, so that was Black people. I feel like a lot of older Black people vote. Younger Black people did like Bernie Sanders, but young Black people don't vote. Older Black people get out and vote. They wanted electability. They have been fighting revolutions their whole lives. They don't want to fight another revolution. And they are tired of being promised the moon when they're not going to get it. They're being realistic.
Sure.
I want to make sure we put a pin in that. And I know I know when you're speaking, you're not speaking off the cuff. You have statistics and things to back up what you're saying. But I want to later on when I want to talk about the what you said about young Black people not voting and why and what we can do about that. I want to come back to that. Michael, do you mind answering Alyssa's question?
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I remember.
Well, I'm not sure what point we started discussing.
That's true too.
So I'll tell you how it went for me. Early on, I was I thought Mayor Pete might be a good candidate. I really did. But time went on, I learned a bit more, and I, Elizabeth Warren had my support for a little while. The thing that frightened me about Kamala was all the stuff I've been hearing about. She's been done more to imprison Black men, like that particular story. And before I ask you about that, I will say that when Joe started to look for a vice president, what's her name? Susan Rice. I thought white men want nothing more or nothing less than to deal with her. She just seemed like she was going to bring the ruckus. But I thought that she's too hardcore. Like, I didn't expect her to get the nomination or get to be chosen. But she's the one I really wanted to see in that position, because I feel like I've watched enough interviews and, done enough research to know, like, she's been there. She's a hardened professional. And I'm like, we need somebody a little militant, somebody they're going to be a little bit scared of, and they're already scared of Black women anyway. And I'm not disappointed that Kamala is in there. But I would like some clarification on that rhetoric they keep trying to bring up on her about the incarceration rate.
So where do we start? She was a prosecutor in the 90s. And when we talk about prosecutors and people prosecuting crimes, you have to have the conversation of the police officers overstopping Black and brown people in general, because these prosecutors would not have to prosecute these crimes if these cops weren't stopping them and arresting them. You have to prosecute something once it's on your desk. Also have to talk about how Kamala did not prosecute a lot of low-level crimes. So like her conviction rate was high, but she did throw out a lot of low-level crimes. And if there's a ton of research on it, most people who were stopped for marijuana crimes, as long as it wasn't like an extreme amount, got to go home. They did not get charged. Yeah, so, and when you talk about her incarceration rate and how she locked up so many Black men allegedly, you got to remember the time period it was. It was a tough on crime era. I wasn't alive during this time, but I have talked to older people who were alive, and they said, especially in California, people were on the streets rampant. People were walking home, had to walk home without their sneakers because they were scared they were going to get sneaker jacked. It was insane. The height of the crack cocaine epidemic, all of these things were happening. So somebody had to do something. They wanted the government to do something and the government to do something fast. She's also upholding laws that both Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders voted to be into place, as well with the 3 strikes rule, as well as the citizens of California who voted for that.
Okay. That all that information helps. Thank you.
I mean, I will say too, because it's a discussion that keeps coming up, and there's some people that I've talked to who just simply don't support a prosecutor or anybody from law enforcement, period. And I understand that argument. And just it didn't matter if she was the most progressive prosecutor or not. The fact that she was a prosecutor and enforced the laws enough for them to not be okay with that. But there've been a lot of things that have been shared on social media that have just not been accurate too. Like there's a whole lot of like I've seen a lot of claims that she was the prosecutor during what was his name? I want to say Oscar. Yes. And she had nothing to do with that case. But there have been any number of memes going around and posts and claims going around that she was responsible for that. And I think there was quite a few things that have been circulating in terms of her conviction rate and other things that just flat out were not accurate. And I mean, I guess it's interesting to me. I understand smears in a political campaign. And I guess one of the things that I'm curious about, and I don't know that we know or will know, is where the misinformation comes from. Because if it's not coming from the right, then where is it coming from, and what purpose are they hoping to serve?
So a lot of it is, I've seen a bunch of like Russian bots posting about it. I'm on Twitter a lot. I'm not on Facebook as much, but I've seen a lot of Russian bots posting about it. But also I've just seen people from our community, even from the left, it's the same thing that happened in 2016. I'll vote for a woman, just not that woman. And with every woman, it's going to be a problem, especially, and then you bring her being Black into it. Then you have to take into consideration Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg not censoring fake news on Facebook. And that's where a lot of people are on there, especially like the older population, who can't even differentiate between what's real and what's fake, what articles are real, what sources to believe. Yeah, so it's been a lot of fake news surrounding her. And I think people are so quick to believe it because the way that Black women are unprotected and the way that people will believe anything about a Black woman. I think her not being 100% Black also plays into that. She is half Jamaican and half Southeast Indian, I believe. So I think that plays into that. And it's like, how can we strip her away? How can we strip her from her Blackness type of thing?
Oh, so that's what that's about. They're trying to make I get it now.
Yeah,
I wondered for myself, I'm like, what difference does it make? She was born here, case closed. Why is this an issue?
Also, the world sees her as a Black woman. She was in the second class in her elementary school to integrate. When you see her, you see a Black woman. So
yeah,
none of us are 100% Black. Also, there's been a bunch of fake news about how her great-great-great-grandfather was a slave owner. But guess what? Probably every Black person here's great-great-grandfather was a slave owner because they raped people. They raped
400 years, something had to have happened. You're gonna break the bloodline.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen because Massa couldn't help it.
I'm just gonna sit over here looking uncomfortable.
That's right. You look. That's what you supposed to do. This is Black excellence and Dan.
Right. So, I did want to, before I got too far away from it, I wanted to throw this comment up there and see if you had any input on that before I get too buried down in the comments.
Sure.
Voting on electability didn't work out last time. I don't think they voted on electability. I don't think a woman is quote unquote electable necessarily. I think Bernie Sanders was the safe choice in 2016.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's interesting. I never really gave that. The only issue I have with calling Bernie Sanders the safe choice is it's so easy just to yell socialism, and then now, he's lost a certain number of moderate support.
Yeah, but
he's a white man. There has never been a female president. There has never been a female vice president. Nancy Pelosi was the first female speaker of the House, and she's third in line. And she was the first female speaker in 2010, maybe?
And she's been pretty well demonized herself.
Yeah.
They love to smear her. I've seen so many just blatantly untrue smears about Nancy Pelosi.
Sure.
That,
but what disturbed me about the situation with Hillary was that a lot of young female voters were like, "Nah, we'll wait till somebody we can relate to comes along." Like they felt like they had they dragged their feet on it because they felt like, the chance will come again. Somebody who speaks for my generation will come, and I think they squandered that opportunity.
Yeah. And she was the most qualified person to ever run for president. Love Barack Obama. More qualified than Barack Obama. Most qualified person to ever run.
Hey.
But again, I'll vote for a woman, just not that woman.
Well, there it is.
I think also, and again, as I'll be the white guy in the room speaking on it, but I think there was a certain element of I think it's, in some ways it's harder for women because if you're all the things that you need to do to be a leader, people see that as unlikable in a woman. They expect women to be soft and warm and cuddly. And then we expect leaders to be alpha and to be forceful and to be strong. And those expectations don't, I get why people saw Hillary Clinton as not, a warm, fuzzy, likable person, but I think she had leadership. I shouldn't say had. She's still around. She has leadership qualities. Well,
yeah, but not only that, Dan. Why do other countries not have a problem with it? I think it's something uniquely. It's something specific about the United States.
Yes. Also, I'm tired of hearing this whole likable thing. She's not coming over for dinner. She's not going to be she's not coming to your party. She's supposed to run the country.
Yeah. For that matter, neither is Barack. He got things to do.
Yes, literally.
So where does that leave us, Dan?
I just threw a question up there. I'm sorry. I was
for profit situation. I believe she has. I'm not 100% sure, but I think she'll address it again. Especially talking to black and brown communities.
So here's my question for either the person that asked that question or for you. So when the person asking the question said, "Will Kamala address it?"
Kamala.
Have I been saying it wrong this whole time?
Her name is Kamala, like Kamala.
I think I've been saying it wrong the whole time, and I think I might have accidentally corrected some other people.
Why am I not surprised?
That's white men for you.
Hey, listen, brother.
So, do they mean will she address it in terms of speak on it or with policy? Because then my sub question is, if they mean the latter, what can the office of the vice president do in terms of
Yes, that'd be my question.
Yeah, so this is a very unique situation. Joe Biden is very likely going to be a one-term president. So we are, with his vice president, we're setting up a front runner for 2024. So she personally might not be able to address it or to like talk about it, but she can push Joe Biden to create policy or to push the House and the Senate to create policies as well.
Yeah, and that's the other advantage of getting Joe Biden into office. He does not seem like he's going to squander his workforce. He's going to listen to what people have to say and try not to mess things up, you know? So she definitely will have his ear. I imagine Obama might be, say, Joe, whisper a couple of them. All right, then. You got it. So I feel like Joe can put together the cabinet of the century and let them work to their true potential.
I'm going to come back to Maya's comment because Alyssa asked a great question.
Joe Biden he'll be 79 when he assumes office. I don't know this for sure, but I'm sure 79, 83. I'm sure he's not going to want to run the country again at 83 for another 4 more years.
Why? I mean, everybody in this election has been old as dirt. You know, Bernie Sanders old as dirt, Joe Biden old as dirt, Donald Trump old as dirt. Why? Hillary Clinton old as dirt. You know, why do we have such an aversion to young people in political leadership?
Well, it's always been a push away from younger people. Like just becoming president, you have to be 35, which I kind of agree with because your frontal cortex should be completely developed. But that's just a good question. It's always been old white men running this country. So, but we've been seeing a big change in that, especially in Congress. We've had some of the youngest people ever to be elected, including Lauren Underwood, AOC, even Ayanna Pressley's pretty young. Ilhan Omar, we've had a lot of younger people pushing for it. So,
you just named a number of my favorites. Ayanna Pressley was who I wish would have been the vice presidential candidate once Joe Biden was nominated. I know there was no chance in hell for that happening, but I would have loved to have seen that.
We love her.
Yeah, I mean, do you think, and this is a complete tangent, but it's, you know, do you think if there wasn't the age limit, do you think we would have seen AOC as a candidate this time around?
I'm not sure about that. But I love the work she's doing in the House. I love how fierce she is, how unapologetic she is. But yeah, I'm not sure about.
Have you had the opportunity to interact with her at all?
I ran into her actually. She's so short. She's like 5'1", 5'2", so short. And I'm 5'6". I had on heels and I was walking. And I ran into her and I was like I ran into her and I didn't realize. I'm like, sorry, excuse me. Then I look back, I'm like, I just ran into AOC.
I think, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, she is so aspirational, I think, well, I guess I should ask you because you're a young, you know, woman of color in politics. Is she somebody that, you know, when you talk about the importance of representation, is she somebody that, that you look at in that way?
Yeah, definitely her. Actually, just like majority of the female members of color, I look up to all of them. They are 50 or 100 years ago, they wouldn't have even been able to become members. So like for them to be there and for them to start making their mark, AOC pushing policies that people who have been in office for 20, 30 years would have never pushed for, it's aspirational.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so why? I mean, she's considered to be super polarizing right now. Do you think, is it because she's young and I don't know if you use the word fierce or what word you use, that she's essentially fearless and very much always operates from a position of strength, or is it more about policy? I mean, why do you think she's so polarizing currently?
I think it's just like kind of a mix. I absolutely love her. She pushes for policies that will make a lot of people in swing districts lose their seat. But I'm also a firm believer that if you are not willing to vote for something that will make you lose your seat, you shouldn't. And to protect your constituents or to help your constituents, you should not be in office.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember in 2010, when the ACA was passed, so many people lost their seats, but do you know how many lives that they saved while doing so?
I had something I wanted to say that now I lost it again. What was? I'll come back to it. Give me a second, Michael. What were you going to say? I
didn't have anything I was going to say in particular. I thought that thank you. That was what I was thinking. Was you can take that question down.
Somebody pointed out in the comments as well that it was white women that were able to vote 100 years ago. I think. Oh man, I'm trying to get back there. Whatever it was brilliant. And
that's cool. Can we stay on the? Well, wait a minute. She's a smart brown woman with the confidence of a white man. She's scary to folks.
Yes.
What's wrong with that?
Go ahead.
People being afraid of her is their problem. She lives in the dark blue district. She's not going to lose her seat. So people being scared of her is their issue.
So here's my question. So when you worked on Capitol Hill, that was while she was already in office at that point, right? So you guys, okay. So the whole thing about this is what I had but forgot. The whole thing, I remember that. I don't want to blame the media because I hate when people make it, oh, the media, this, and the media, that. But there was this story about how it was a battle between her and the establishment Democrats. As somebody who was actually working on Capitol Hill at that time, was that true, or is that just something that was kind of sensationalized for likes and clicks and stories?
Well, can I say, I don't. Well, if you would listen to Nancy Pelosi around that time, it seemed like it was real beef to me.
I am not going to speak on that one, but
calling them the squad and whatnot, and kind of.
I think it was a bunch of clicks to clickbait and stuff to divide the party and look like the party was not unified. There has always been more progressive people in the party. There has always been more moderate people in the party. Mm-hmm. And I think people are trying to capitalize, again, the people say the media and media sways public opinion. So I think they were trying to capitalize off of that, especially with more right-leaning news companies and news articles to capitalize off of that. Like people, there's always been different opinions. There's always been infighting, and I'm sure if the Republicans had a backbone, they would have infighting as well, but they just don't.
That's a good point.
I think that at least from my perspective as being a guy, who's not firsthand involved in all this and who's just reading the stories and the tweets and whatever, what it really looks from my perspective is that all of the stories about it being this battle went away coincidentally after the honeymoon period was over, so to speak. Like it really seems like it was, I'm sure there was, and I know I can think of some cases where I can specifically AOC where the way that they handled certain press releases and things like that were not necessarily done with the same way that somebody's who's been in politics for decades would have done. She made some missteps at the beginning and probably did get reprimanded by, but
that's going to happen. People, you have to give people the latitude and the room to grow.
But also, and another thing that I really like about AOC is that she's pushing the status quo for what the Hill is supposed to be. Like Capitol Hill has, for a long time, it's been very hush hush. It's very pretentious. It's like you have to be in a position of privilege and to be able to understand what's going on. And AOC has pushed the limits of that to make it understandable for everybody.
Yes. Yes.
What were you going to say, Michael?
I just said yes to all that, Jeria.
I've been ignoring the questions. Let me see. We got a question here.
Do I see myself running for political office in the future? I am looking at running for a seat in Milwaukee. Not eligible to run until 2024. Yeah, I'm not eligible to run until 2024, but I'm looking into that. Possibly, after this election cycle, I'm completely drained of politics right now. But yeah. I would love to have the opportunity to represent my people, especially in a city where I was born and raised.
Well, all right. Your people can use you, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the reason you can't until 2024 is because of how young you are?
Yes.
So let me ask you a question. So if you were older or there was no age limit, how far in advance would you normally, like, is the fact that we're 4 years off, is that a pretty good amount of time for that, or would it be sooner otherwise?
I think, I'm not sure. Some people wake up one day and they're like, I want to run for office. White men like Beto loses elections and decides to run for office. So I just think it depends. As a Black woman, I know like my image has to be really clean. I have to like groom myself and like do specific work to ensure that I am prepared to run for office.
Sure. Is it going to be scrutinizing everything about you?
Yeah.
And it's good that you know that at 22, because it's probably going to affect some of the decisions you make while you're not running for office, because you know that in this climate and in this country, anything you say and do can be used against you.
Well,
but also I think we are entering a very unique time of politics where people who mess up like are able to run for office. Like a lot of the older people are dying, like the boomers are beginning to die off now. And that was an extremely conservative, just like socially all the way around, a conservative generation. So now we're entering a more liberated generation. So like people who have tattoos can run for office now. Like people like Ayanna Pressley, again, with her natural hair, or Lauren Underwood with their natural hair, could run for office when maybe 10, 15 years ago, especially Black women, had to have bone straight hair, like not a crinkle in your hair, to your knees. Like it's a very different time now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look up his name. There's a mayor somewhere in New England, and actually he's a friend of somebody that watches the show. So I'd actually reached out to see if he was interested in being a guest on the show, and I haven't heard back yet. I'm trying to think of his name. I want to say it's Alex something. He's a mayor somewhere in New England that's currently running for Congress. And he's gay. He's openly gay. And he got Me Too'd. And so they thought that was essentially going to torpedo his campaign. And then it kind of came out that the accusations were suspect or fraudulent or something like that. And it was considered, there was a bunch of big write-ups about it, that it was he was considered to be one of the first examples of like somebody essentially coming back from that. And you made me think of that when you're talking about how the landscape is changing in terms of being more forgiving, not just in terms of things that never should have been in the first place, like you gave the examples of natural hair and tattoos, but also, whether or not, and again, in that case, it doesn't sound like it actually was his misstep. It sounded like it was a political ploy. And I'm looking in my Facebook messages to try to find his name. Have either of you heard about?
I haven't. I believe women all the time. I always believe women, and so if a woman said that he did it, until proven otherwise, I'm going to believe the women.
Well, this is an interesting scenario because he's openly gay, so it was men. But there also, it wasn't a specific accuser. I'm looking for I can't find it. but there wasn't a specific accuser. It was like, I think a campus newspaper published, oh yeah, we've had several students that claimed that when he was a professor, he was sleeping with them or something like that. But there wasn't actually anybody, like there was not an actual accuser. And then when they actually traced back the accusations, they found out that it had come from a political opponent's office or something like that. I don't remember the details, but I'm gonna look it up. And if anybody's interested, I'll post it in the comments when I find it. But I think that is interesting. I mean, I'm definitely not saying, not to believe accusations, but I think it is interesting that you used the example of Kobe Bryant earlier in the show in terms of like the people can come back from accusations, whether they're guilty or not. We're giving people second chances, which is something that maybe we weren't doing.
When it comes to Me Too cases and like sexual assault allegations and all that, white men have had second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances all the time. They've always had. They've always been able to come back from it. They've always swept it under the rug. Men in power in general. Clarence Thomas sexually harassed Anita Hill and is a Supreme Court justice. Kavanaugh raped someone, and they explained in grueling detail what happened, and he's a Supreme Court justice. Bill Clinton coerced his intern into having sex, and he's gone down as the first Black president. So, like, with things like that, men have always gotten second chances.
That's why I was upset that they pressured Al Franken to roll out. I mean, even without like a fair trial or exculpatory, like he just kind of laid down because they're like, listen, you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution at this point. You need to lay down for your party. And really, he was much more of an asset. I think they see that now. Do
you remember that? Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was asking Jeria if she remembers what happened with Al Franken. I can't remember how long ago that was, and if you're old enough to.
No.
So he was It's
good point. You know what? I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I mean, first of all, people watching probably are familiar. My wife and I have talked about the example of Al Franken many times. So he was first he was a comedian, well respected as a comedian. He was on Saturday Night Live for many years, and then decided to run for political office and was a senator from Minnesota. And then it came out, like in the height of all the Me Too stuff, there was a picture of him groping a woman during a comedy sketch on a USO tour, or something to that effect. And he was, and this was in the height of Me Too, and the Democrats were going real hard against the Republicans. So they were basically like, you got to resign. Like, we're not, we can't have double standards here. And so he did. He resigned right away. And the woman in the sketch was like a Republican campaign staffer or something like that. And it was essentially a comedy sketch that she had allegedly been, I don't want to say consented. That makes it sound.
She agreed to it.
Yeah, she agreed to the sketch, and it was part of the sketch, and but in the interest of not getting bogged down in this what could essentially be called a double standard, he just resigned. Yeah. And
they squeezed him out.
Yeah.
And, he was. I mean, what else was he gonna?
Did we lose Michael?
Yeah.
You
still there, Michael?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Michael's back.
Hello. All right. I mean, I understand why he went with it. I mean, these were his peers. These women were like, listen, in case you don't know, now's the time for you to, to hit the door. And he went. I feel like he was so much more an asset. I saw what Erin Human said about she didn't feel bad for Al Franken. You want to put that remark up?
Sure, I can put it up.
Yeah, she didn't. White men are overrepresented. Yeah, there's a lot of them, but there's a lot of them who have no conscience, And sometimes the only person a white man is going to listen to is another white man. So if you can get one who's not, who doesn't seem to be, one of those types, I think he can be. He has value. He's useful.
I think also, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, no. I see Jeria is about to say something.
Go ahead, Jeria.
I want to hear what she has to say.
I just I obviously don't know all the details of what happened, but I personally have a close to zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment, sexual assault, inappropriate touching, and for the Democrats to squeeze him out, they are standing for the women in the party and the women in this country.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody deserves a trial.
You sound like white people when cops shoot people.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not the impression I get.
Same exact talking points. Same talking points all the time. Very similar. Yeah.
She about to revoke my NAACP card.
I think so. What you're saying is the whole let's wait till all the facts come in. Is that what you're talking about? Like that kind of. I get what she's saying. I didn't see it that way, but I am white people. So.
Well, yeah, but I'm not. So I have to re-examine the way my mind works surrounding the issue. I'm not afraid to open my mind and accept new information or change my viewpoint. So, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
That's interesting segue to what's going on in Wisconsin right now. I think, I do want to get back to some of the, things about the campaign and voting and stuff like that. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what's going on in Wisconsin right now, both in terms of the top, general kind of topics we cover on the show, as well as Jeria and I both being. Were you born in Wisconsin?
Milwaukee, born and raised.
So we're both born and raised in Wisconsin. So you want, for anybody who's been sleeping under a rock for the past 2 days, you want to give kind of a rundown of what happened, Jeria?
Essentially, a person, what is his name? Last name Blake. Jacob Blake. Was doing what people want. We want community policing. So he's breaking up a fight. Police were called. He was walking to his car. They were holding him by his shirt, and he was shot. I did not see the video. I refused to watch the video. So this is what I heard on social media. They shot him in point blank range. He is not dead. Last I heard, he was in critical condition and paralyzed from the waist down. His kids were in the car. Things like that.
So I heard that the fight he was breaking up was between two white women. Do you know if that's true or not?
Not positive on any of that.
So obviously black man and I believe white cops. I'm not sure about that either. And he was shot in the back. And he was
7 times.
He was breaking up a fight between two women. And the police were called on, I believe, on the fight, not on him.
I'm not positive, but makes sense.
I'm not sure either. And then when the police came, I don't know the details. I know he was running away, and he was shot in the back as he was running away. And basically, I mean, I live in Madison, work in Milwaukee. She lives in Milwaukee, works in Milwaukee. Well, do you work in Milwaukee or do you work?
I work in Milwaukee, North Milwaukee.
So, and pretty much both of our cities are upside down right now with people protesting and rioting. And have you been out in it at all yet? I know you just got back into Wisconsin.
No, I'll probably go out tomorrow.
Wait a minute. What? Didn't somebody get lit on fire last month? When was that? A person was burned to death, weren't they? Nobody heard about that?
That was in Milwaukee. That was somewhere else.
I know what you're talking about. That wasn't the police. That was here in Madison, in like maybe a couple miles from where I live. A black or biracial woman, depending on how she would identify or people would identify her. She was half black, half white. Was in her car at a stoplight, and some people, white people, pulled up next to her and threw, I think, lighter fluid into her car. And I don't know if it was a match or a lighter or what, but essentially set her on fire, and she ended up going. I think she went to the hospital. And was
so
pretty.
She may have survived that then.
She survived it. She was pretty.
Okay.
She was pretty badly burned, but she was well enough to drive herself. That much I know. I think she might have even gone home first.
Okay.
And then her mother or grandmother, whoever, was like, "No, you have to go to the hospital." No, she didn't. She didn't die.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find. Yeah, we haven't heard anything else about that.
Okay.
Let's see. Her name is Althea Bernstein, and yeah, her face was pretty badly burned, 2nd and 3rd degree burns, and requires ongoing medical treatment.
All right.
And it doesn't look like they ever found out who it was.
Great.
I assume that's sarcasm.
They can find everything else. They can be at protest and find a T-shirt and find who bought the T-shirt,
Exactly.
find who was at the protest, but you can't find who set a black woman on fire.
I was about to say Tupac and Biggie. Don't tell me.
Do you even know who those people are, Jeria?
They can find
I'm not that young.
You are that young, but okay.
Baby.
So, yeah, no, that was on a street that I drive to whenever I need to go downtown.
Yeah, that's insanity to me. How? I don't know. Trying times.
I'm trying to think if you've ever.
People are going crazy, Dan. What's wrong with these white people? Why are they going so crazy?
You know my theory. My theory is this is just trying to do as much damage and destruction as they can before 2043.
Okay.
You know?
Well, 2043 is the year that technically white people are not the you want
to when they become the minority.
Yes.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but that's my one conspiracy theory that I claim to.
It's almost as if minorities are treated bad or something.
I know, right? So, that's the one conspiracy
they know they don't want to be one. They don't. Right. They didn't want to be it. That's and shout out to Jane Elliott with that test. Are you familiar with the test?
Jane Elliott is also extremely problematic. She talks about how there's one race, the human race. Yes, racism is a social construct. Yes, race is a social construct, but it's very real right now. People are very much feeling the effects of it. She's a little problematic to me, but.
Okay, well, do you mind saying how come?
No, she goes on this whole tangent about there's only one race, which is the human race. But you're saying that while I'm feeling the effects of racism.
Sure.
Race definitely is a social construct. I understand that 100%. But negating the fact that much of my identity lies within my blackness and my race at this point, you can't go around saying that. But I get what she was trying to say. It's just a little problematic.
My understanding was, sorry, I did not mean to interrupt you.
No problem.
I thought that because I've also seen her say that she is a descendant of a black woman.
Right? Not a descendant of a white man.
No, I'm just meaning everybody comes from Africa. So I thought that was also a part of her theory that there is no racism. We all come from the same place, so y'all need to just kind of cut it out. But I do agree with you. It's one thing to look at it from a vantage point, and it's another thing to be living with it. So, yes, yeah. I feel you.
I mean, I was Googling to see because I had not seen her say that in those words, and I think I get what you're saying though, because she does talk about race being a social construct and not actually being. I mean, race doesn't exist scientifically, so I understand that argument.
Yeah, but it's not constructive. It don't help nobody.
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't involve obtaining a level of clarity for the masses to the point where they just go, "Oh, well, all right. Let's not burn her in her car."
Yeah.
Let's not. It's not, it don't have an effect on things. It's a nice notion, and it may be scientifically fact, but how can you use it to
also, we didn't create race. Race was created by white people in the 1400s. They don't have nothing to do with us.
Mm-hmm. I don't think white people weren't even called white until a certain year.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that same thing up because Sade talked about that a bit on her episode, that the concept of white and black actually came after slavery in the U.S. They needed a reason to justify it, you know, and so those, you know, the idea, like whether it was Michael or Jeria that just said that the idea of actually calling people white and black didn't exist until like the 15th or 16th century.
He was going there. I just finished her sentence for her. Yeah.
So let's get back, because we only have half an hour or so left. Let's get back to the campaign. I think we've already kind of addressed some of the pros and cons and the smears versus legitimate criticisms of the current Democratic ticket. I mean, I definitely want to make sure that we, don't gloss over any of that, because there's a whole lot of people that are still apprehensive about voting for a Biden Harris ticket. And I get the whole, like, I've seen a lot of people posting similar memes and things that they posted during the Hillary campaign, which was like, Biden, I guess, or something like that. And as I think everybody here has stated that he wasn't anyone's first choice per se, but I'm not going to be going to the polls in November. Like, I guess I'm geared up and ready and aggressive to go to the polls. It's not a hesitant thing to me. Like, fourth or fifth. Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't know if you were done or not. Yeah, I don't understand what makes people want to do that.
I can tell you, privilege. It's privilege. All of that, I guess, is coming from a bunch of white people whose lives were not drastically changed. A bunch of white men, probably, whose lives were not drastically changed by Donald Trump winning. Also, it's coming from like higher up black people who got tax breaks from Donald Trump from Donald Trump winning, or their lives again weren't drastically changed. But women, like, let's just talk about women first of all. Women, Roe versus Wade is on the verge of being overturned, and that's going to hurt black women more than anybody, because abortion is directly correlated with socioeconomics.
Oh yeah.
So, and black women are not going to stop having abortions. They're just going to stop having safe abortions. But Black Lives Matter, though, right?
Go ahead.
And then just black people, hate crimes have gone through the roof since Donald Trump has been into office, because he starts telling people when they loot, we shoot. When he's calling KKK members very fine people. White supremacists used to be scared. They used to wear hoods. They used to be terrified to be out in public being white supremacists.
Now they're running for office.
Yeah. But now they're out in public. Saw a Facebook group message about how the white supremacists said that they will be out in Kenosha today. Like, even older people, black and brown people and older people, the way that this virus was handled, the way that Donald Trump gave PPP to China, knowing that the virus is coming here, still refuses to put this country on lockdown, is killing black and brown people. Forcing these kids to go to school is going to kill kids. If it does not kill kids, they're going to take it home to their parents and kill their parents. We cannot afford another 4 more years of Trump. So if you got to go and say, I guess, just go to the polls. Like, I don't care if you guess. I don't care what it is. Go to the polls.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's
go ahead, Michael.
No. She, once again, I can't argue with her logic, and I agree. That's all right. Go ahead. Say what you got to say.
Disabled people as well. Yes. Disabled people, black and brown kids who are being put into cages, separated from their parents. It's too much.
It's too much.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the post office. I didn't know how important.
In the Constitution. Like, how do you have beef with the post office?
And this is getting off on a tangent, and the question I put up there is a great question, but this tangent is like, how are people okay with this? Like, there's no reason for him to be sabotaging the post office other than to sabotage the election. Like, he's not even trying to be like, oh, well, we're defunding the post office because no, he's not giving a reason. He's doing it blatantly to influence the election, he's doing. I mean, it kind of goes back to that whole like mafia mentality when you think of the way he handled real estate deals in New York, where you just you do it boldly. I guess it's kind of the whole thing of like if you're breaking into a car in broad daylight, people are going to assume it's your car, and it's okay.
Right.
Like,
don't sneak around. Just do it just treat it like a normal thing. You know how many times I've walked in, also because of my size, and I don't usually have a pleasant face on. But I walk around like I know where I'm going. Nobody ever asked me for my credentials on Soul Asylum gigs. They give them to me, and I put them in my pocket. Janine says, "Here goes your laminate," and I go, "All right," and I stick it in my pocket. And when it comes time to go to the stage, ain't nobody standing in my way because I look like I know what I'm going to do. I look like I belong. So I guess if you were a real estate agent in a former life in the president's office, I guess you just do what comes natural to you. You just bully your way. You did not. I'll make it so. Who's gonna stop me?
I can't believe more people aren't outraged about this. He's destroying the post office just to win an election. He's not trying to hide it, and people don't care.
I didn't realize how much of a public resource the post office was until I realized how many people get that. I mean, my wife used to work for Express Scripts, so she's like, you know how many old people with disease, they get their medication through the mail, old people, disabled people, so them, getting your insulin, 6 weeks later or whatever. That's crazy.
Even down to people in prison, how they communicate with their families.
Right. Mm-hmm. Like it's a real war on us.
And I know a lot of people have made the argument that without the post office, just use FedEx or UPS. But speaking as somebody who does, go ahead, Michael.
No, it's expensive. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean
That's exactly what I was going to say. Like if you've ever had to ship something, if you're shipping something big, then FedEx and UPS are great options. If you're shipping something small, like medicine, like a check, like, really the only viable option is the post office. It costs 4 to 6 times more to ship something small through one of the for-profit companies.
Right, exactly. And if you're already using the post office, I mean, people use it to pay their rent, get money orders and whatnot. I mean, so these are people who already don't have money to burn. So it feels like it's blatant punishment of the lower class.
Are either of you familiar with the concept of the post office being used as a bank in communities that don't have access to banking? There was a push some years back to be able to allow the post office to function as for I think savings accounts and check cashing and stuff like that. And then I think they canceled the ability for them to do it or something like that. Do either of you know what I'm talking about?
I hadn't heard that.
So you used to be able to do minor banking at the post office back decades ago. You cash a check there. I think you could get some either a checking or a savings account through the post office, and they made that illegal at some point. And then under the Obama administration, there was talk about bringing it back. And because in certain areas, either you're way out in the country and you have no other options, or you're in the hood and your options are predatory lending places and check cashing places that charge you exponential interest rates and things like that. And so there was this idea of allowing the post office to provide those kind of services as a way to stay viable and to help those communities. And now we're going the opposite direction.
Well, that's because Trump don't care. It's the cruelty is the point, it seems.
But also, let me piggyback off my statement about people dragging their feet to go vote.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are not the only people on that ticket. You need to elect Democrats up and down the ticket, because Democrats down the ticket help you more on a personal level. People think that their lives are supposed to drastically change by policies that the president puts in, but your mayor matters, your city councilman matters, your state electeds matter. So vote down the ticket. If you don't like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, get excited about somebody else down the ticket and push for them to win.
Yeah, put them in a position to get involved.
Can I ask you this question too?
Yeah.
So I'm somebody I mean, I research every election before I vote. I don't just vote blindly, but I can't remember the last time I voted for anybody that wasn't blue. I pretty much just vote blue down ticket. But there might be people watching who are independent, who are Republican, who don't necessarily adhere to one party or another. Why would you encourage people, with or without, educating themselves on the candidates? Why would you encourage people to vote blue?
Well, let me ask y'all a question. Has there ever been a time in history when progressives were on the wrong side of history? Not Democrats or Republicans, but progressives.
So I think it's important to point out in what you're asking that there was a time when the Republican Party was the progressive party.
Yeah, and then they switched platforms in the 60s. Mm-hmm. That Republicans love that talking point about how they freed the slaves. Like, okay, well, y'all are racist now. So.
They don't want to mention the pressure that Lincoln was under at the time, and that it was not a benevolent move on his part. He had to, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But has there ever been a point when progressives were on the wrong side of history?
I'll just go wild with it and say no. The progressives pushing forward has always been the place to be.
Exactly. So I push for that. I know for sure in Wisconsin, all the Democrats are pushing just for people to have basic human rights, being able to feed their families, livable wage, students not going into debt to be able to push ahead.
Yes.
I just think, and a lot of people, I just think vote for maybe in local elections, like third parties are able to win. Like, do what you do, but don't just think about yourself when you vote. Think about everybody around you, because voting, I know people always vote in their best self-interest, but vote for marginalized communities, for people who are not allowed to vote.
Care about somebody else's circumstances for a hot minute.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's the way that I was raised, or maybe I don't know what it is. I've always entered every election looking at it in terms of maybe it's because I come from, having certain privileges, but I've always looked at every election in terms of who's going to most help people in general, not who's going to most help me.
Okay.
Because I do subscribe to the theory, and I don't know if some people would call this socialism. I don't. That, like, the whole, let's say I didn't have kids, public schools still benefit me because I want my neighbors' kids to be educated. If my neighbors' kids aren't educated, they're breaking into my house.
That's right.
They have no other way to
in a few years.
Right. So it's to my benefit that their kids are educated, even if I don't have kids. It's to my benefit that my neighbor does well. And so I've always kind of looked at it in terms of helping the least among us is how we benefit everybody. But I that doesn't seem to be a common, I don't think everybody thinks that way.
Yeah, people, I can't think what psychologist said this or what theory this is, but people vote in their best interest. People act in their best interest. And people are not irrational beings. Like, they're not going to be like, oh, I'm voting this way because for some irrational reason. They're going to vote in their best interest rationally.
So I just remembered, we said we were going to circle back to this earlier when you talked about how when we were talking about the candidates, and you said older Black people vote, younger Black people don't vote as much. Is that true in other cultures as well? Is it true of young people don't vote across the board, or is it
young people don't vote? Like, the educated younger people vote, but older people, especially older Black people, have much more stake in it. They fought, they died for their right to vote, so they're going to vote every single time. I've missed a few elections myself, but my grandfather, my grandmother, always out there voting. I'm like, dang, it's an election already? They know more about the elections than I do.
Well, some people took a beat down.
Yeah.
Your grandparents, they go to the church too, right?
My grandmother does. Her name's Sherry Boone.
I probably know her if I saw her face. I want to put the family together next time when we're allowed to all come back together again. So that, I mean, that's not to make so much of this about how young you are, but I love that. I mean, and you come across as young. You know what I mean? Like nobody's looking at you and thinking, "Oh, she's probably 35." You know, you have your youthful look and your youth. You look and have the energy of somebody who's necessarily even younger than you are, but then you have the interest in politics of somebody that's older than you are, which is why I think it's so great. We talk about representation mattering on the show. I think it's really important for people of all ages to see somebody who is young, who's interested and invested in politics. Because and Alyssa, who's been in the comments as well, she's the same age as you, right?
Yeah, we're best friends since 6th grade.
She also goes to the church. So what her mom often comments on the show, and will probably end up being a guest in the show at some point. But I think it's so important that that to see that there. Again, I when I was in high school, I knew enough to be interested in politics, but I didn't have the level of interest that you do, or the level of interest that I have now. And I think it's maybe when you're younger, you don't always realize how things affect you. Is that a part of it?
Yeah. So Kerry Washington, I love her, absolutely adore her. But last time she spoke at the DNC, not this time, but I think it was 2012, she spoke. And she had this quote that said, "You may not be thinking about politics, but politics is thinking about you." So every single move you make is political. You being able to have this podcast, like have freedom to post on the internet is political. Like every single thing you do is political. Maya says she disagrees. There's an increased level of voter apathy. Yeah, there's an increased number, but like older people vote in higher numbers. Like it's been statistically proven that older people vote in higher numbers. White men vote in higher numbers. The more educated you are, you vote in higher numbers. Yeah.
So what can we do? Okay. Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
No, I just said okay.
So what can we do? I think Michael's scared to disagree with you sometimes because you come across so young and cute. You can let her have it, Michael.
I'm no respecter of persons. She's my equal. If I disagree, I'll let her know. Like, when have you known me to?
That's true. That's true. So here's my question. So how can we? And again, I think we definitely have people of all ages involved here in the show. Both listeners on the show and watching the show. But I don't think our demographic skews young per se. So let's just assume that the average age of somebody watching the show is 35, 40, something, What can we do as people that are not in that young demographic? What can we do to encourage young people to vote?
I think a lot of people my age, I know civics is not required to be taught in public schools. I know in Wisconsin for sure. I'm not sure about everywhere else. Civics is not required to be taught. So first and foremost, we need to be teaching them the three branches of government, the way that how everything boils down to. We also need to teach younger people, or just people in general, call your representatives when they are voting on something, when you think they might vote on something you don't like. Your advocacy for candidates does not stop on November 3rd, doesn't stop on election day. You keep holding them accountable.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, they work for you. It's your taxpayer money that's paying their bills. And I just think research your candidates. For Wisconsin people, again, I'm not sure about everyone else. I don't know what website it is for everyone else, but go to myvote.wi.gov and you can see your ballot about 2 or 3 months before election day. Research your candidates. If you don't like who is representing you in the general election, get out and vote in the primary. Go support somebody in the primary. Make calls for the people in the primary. Knock doors for the people in the primary. And you can push for the candidate that you want to win.
One of the things that I've always said, and you guys, either of you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always said to people to vote your principles in the primary and then vote your conscience in the general. Because in the primary, you have the opportunity to really advocate for a candidate that you really line up with, whether they're an independent or you may have many Democrats on the ballot, obviously, or and in Wisconsin we generally have a closed primary, so you have to stick with the party. But everybody who's so upset about Biden and Harris being the choices, did you vote in the primary? Who did you vote for in the primary?
Let me just piggyback off of that. It's not enough to just go vote. It's if you really want your candidate to win, go volunteer, go knock a packet, go do a phone banking shift, text people. Like, there are so many opportunities to get involved to push your candidate's agenda in the primary.
The other thing, I think we kind of touched on it, but we kind of glossed over it as well, is what can we do to help, as the cliche goes, to get out the vote or to rock the vote? Or is that pretty much what, like, phone banks and canvassing and
So as of now, we are virtual until November. But we are making, not until November, I think till September, mid-September as of now. We're not sure if that's going to get pushed back due to the virus. We don't know. But phone bank. There are ample opportunities to phone bank, text bank. If you want to get involved with the DNC here in in Wisconsin in general, text cheese to 3033.
Of course it's cheese. So I think, by the way, in response to Brandy's comment, no, I don't think that, I don't remember being taught in high school much of anything about the way the current government worked. We were required to take history, but history was almost always pretty abstract, and it did not give us a firm grasp of how the things that we were learning about in history related to what was going on today.
You didn't have civics?
I took AP government, but I also went to a suburban school. So and then if you think about it, people who are in MPS schools, who they have like all these behavioral issues, all these very low funded schools from books from 20 years ago, like, how much are they really being taught and how in depth are they actually going?
So I remember in my high school, the only history course, you were required to take X number of history courses, but the only one that was required was 9th grade history, which was pretty general. And I don't remember it being anything specifically that would help me understand. I don't want to say anything too bad about it, because my 9th grade history teacher actually watches the show sometimes. But then after that, everything was elective. And I don't know why in 10th grade, I took Great Britain as my elective. I have no idea why I picked that. I just thought maybe it would be interesting. It was not. And then for 11th grade, my elective, I took Africa, which actually the same teacher that taught 9th grade history taught my Africa class, which was a really great class. And we read Things Fall Apart and, but I don't remember taking a class in high school that really, and it's funny because when I get in these discussions with people on social media, it seems like most people don't have an understanding of how the government works in the most basic form. Like, I was in a discussion with somebody earlier today who was claiming that if Biden and Harris are elected, it's going to be made illegal for churches not to marry gay people, and if you refuse to marry gay people, it'll be a hate crime. And then he went off on this rant about how Obama did that. And I'm like, well, you do realize that technically it was the Supreme Court that ruled gay marriage or marriage equality constitutional, not the Obama administration. And that went completely, like, they did not understand the 3 branches of government.
Yeah, let me actually just piggyback off of that when talking about the importance of voting. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is on her deathbed every other day, and the President of the United States gets to nominate the Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
If Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies and Donald Trump is president again, he is able to nominate somebody, and they have lifetime appointments on the Supreme Court, which Roe versus Wade could be overturned. I know they overturned the 64 Voting Rights Act. They have the power to do that. So you're like, I guess Biden, but a lifetime appointment from Biden will be 1,000,000 times better than a lifetime appointment from Trump.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about why Ruth Bader Ginsburg is such a asset? Because people may not.
So we have a conservative majority on the court already. I believe it's 5-4. I want to say it's 5-4 conservative majority right now. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies and Donald Trump appoints someone else, that is a 6-3. They'll have a 6-3 majority. And yeah, 6-3, and most of them are not on their deathbeds. That is going to be a disaster.
How many has Trump appointed so far? 2, right?
2.
It was Kavanaugh, and I'm blanking on the name of the person that was appointed right after he was
the Supreme Court class, and I cannot think of his name.
And that was the whole deal with Merrick Garland and everything like that. That was where Obama nominated someone, and McConnell, I think evil personified. Did you ever run into him on Capitol Hill?
No, I was on the House side, so I saw a bunch of cool House members. Like met John Lewis, didn't get a picture with him.
Oh,
also met Elijah Cummings. I thought he was John Lewis, and I'm like, when did John Lewis get in? Because Elijah Cummings rode around in his scooter. I'm like, when did John Lewis get in the scooter? But it wasn't John Lewis. But yeah, met a lot of cool people.
Well, okay, now we're even for the for the earlier dig about me saying, you're pushing that evil trope that all of us look alike. So we're even now, Jeria.
They look similar, especially in person. They look similar.
Yeah. All right.
I say all black people look like Jerry. So, wasn't there a newspaper that used a picture of John Lewis when Elijah Cummings passed, or vice versa?
Yeah, but actually, so they do get that they look alike a lot. When I was on the Hill for April Fool's, John Lewis said that he was going to grow a mustache so that people would stop mistaking him for Elijah Cummings.
Yeah.
A bunch of people just named the Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
And so we are running out of time. I do want to make sure, Michael, you got your cup handy?
I sure do. It's still nothing in it.
Somebody get Michael some liquor.
No, that's later.
So please make sure you support the show. First of all, I want to make sure I've shouted that out while we still have the chance. But first of all, Jeria, is there anything we didn't cover that you want to make sure you cover?
Not necessarily. Actually, for people trying to get into I'm very privileged to end up in the situation that I am. People of color, especially women of color, do not work for free for organizations. Like if you're volunteering for a candidate, that's one thing. But if it's an organization that you know can pay you, they like to exploit young labor. Do not work for free. Also, just ensure that you're not the smartest person in the room at all times. I've always heard if you're the smartest person in the room, find a new room so you can continue to grow. Yeah, but vote Joe Biden, please, and Democrats up and down the ticket. Do not write in Kanye West. Nothing about Kanye West. Leave Kanye West alone. But yes, do the work.
I didn't realize that the councilman was here because his comments haven't been showing up. But it looks like the councilman. Yeah.
Okay.
I did not know because depending on where you comment, sometimes the name doesn't come through. So he must have been going easy on Jeria.
I was really nervous. I'm like, oh, he's gonna come for me.
Oh, well, there's still time. We got, if he
still 1 minute.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Jeria or for any of us before we, before we end for the night? Again, I want to make sure while we're waiting to see if any questions come in. I already showed the black and red one. What else do we got? So make sure I'm going to show these every episode. Michael and I aren't making anything off of this. This is just to promote the brand, to get more people interested and involved in the show, and so everybody can be a part of it with us. Maybe one day Michael and I will get rich off of this. We have masks. So, here's a good question. At least in Wisconsin, I know you probably wouldn't know for other states. Where can we get bumper stickers, lawn signs, anything like that for blue candidates?
For blue candidates, you have to go to their website. Biden is on the Biden website. And then if you just want to support WisDems, it's wisdems.org.
So not to jump around, but Brandy says she ordered a tote bag and it's in New Jersey and hasn't. So that's because the post office. See how it's all connected together again. Since they got rid of all those sorting machines. And that has been in my area and Jeria's area because we're in urban blue areas. Mm-hmm. They've targeted our areas. A package that was supposed to come to either me or my wife, I don't remember where it was coming from, maybe Florida, went from here to Madison to Milwaukee, back to Madison, then way out to the sticks, and then back, and it still hasn't reached us. It's been to my city 3 times. Mm-hmm. But it keeps getting sent the wrong place. Smitty, which T-shirt did you like? You liked the I'll wear this one. I think that's this one with Yeah,
that's all right.
So
what's going on with Smitterman? Smitman. Smith.
So it doesn't look like we have any questions outstanding for Maya says she's had a similar. Yeah, they're not kidding about effing around with the post office. Look, he's got some kind words for you.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about what we got coming up. So next week, I believe, is going to be Musipolitics Classic, which is Michael and myself. And those of us who were here for the first episode, it was just me and Michael. And what we may do, I'm not sure yet, and Michael and I will talk about this. What we may do is it may be a thing like my birthday where we get past guests to pop in, because that seems to have been very good for the brand. But that's next week. The 8th is the following Tuesday, right?
It sounds like you're right. Monday the 31st, and then
yes.
Yeah.
So who here, Jeria, have you heard about what's been going on in Rockford, Illinois? That's pretty close to us.
No. What's been going on?
So they've been consistently doing Black Lives Matter protests there pretty much all summer. And they have been arresting peaceful protesters and charging them with felonies, which is unfortunately happening everywhere. But what they've been doing in Rockford is they've been specifically setting out to arrest protesters before the protests even began. They'll have their list of arrest warrants and they'll say these are who are arresting today, or this is how many people who are arresting today, and the protest hasn't even happened yet. They're just like, there's going to be a protest, so we're going to haul you guys in. And the protest, to my knowledge, the protests have all been peaceful except for what the police has done. And they've been, like I said, they've been hauling in people before the protests have even started and charging them with felonies, which, as you know, as everybody here knows, that's a whole nother type of disenfranchisement. So one of the protest leaders from Rockford, a singer and actress named Asia Penix, is going to be with us on the 8th. I believe we have a musician on the 15th, and then on the 22nd, speaking of protests, we're going to have a return visit by one of the Minneapolis protest leaders, Jasmine Koenig. So that's what's coming up in the future. We got, man, there's so much going on right now. Jeria, I hope we'll see you again.
Yes, have me come on the Thursday or the Tuesday before Election Day. I'll be.
Okay, well we'll pencil that in. That would be great to have you.
That's. Are you sure you're not going to be too busy?
I feel like it'll count as getting out the vote. Just like again, reminding people go vote.
Okay.
If you have not voted absentee already, get out, vote in person.
So you're actually telling your employer. So this is you can log these hours with your employer, right? So she's using us, Michael.
That's all right.
Good organizing is not just knocking on people's doors. It's not just getting people in a circle. It's talking to people, reaching people outside your bubble.
The time is the most important.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give people your time, and
I love that she was ready with that answer too. So
I'm always ready.
So Jeria, hopefully, in between now and then, we'll either see you in the comments or in one of the, if we do like a thing where guests pop in, because we really appreciate you and everything that you're doing.
Yes.
It's so inspiring to see. Again, I don't want to make it about how much, she's such a baby, but it's so inspiring. I wish I would have had this type of awareness at 22. Think of all the things I would have done that I didn't do,
It's a privilege not to have that awareness. No shade or anything. But.
Oh, yeah, I felt the shade.
Also, I don't know who Facebook user is, but if you're requesting your absentee ballot, request it on the 17th, and then drop it off at your local polling location or drop-off location, so we don't have to deal with Donald Trump and him taking away ballots and things like that. But if not, vote early. Take your own pen, wear a mask, and things like that.
Which comment are you responding to?
Vote early, drop them off.
Oh, okay. I was gonna put it up. Yeah, my wife and I voted in the primary at the public library, and we were very satisfied with how that went. So we're probably gonna do that again this time. Are you getting a mail-in ballot, Michael?
That's what I'm gonna have to do.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
sorry.
Go ahead.
No. I was gonna ask Jeria if she is there any. You have any links or anything, any way people can contact you or see what's going on with you?
Yeah, you can add me on Facebook. My Twitter name, if it's church people, don't add me because y'all gonna be mad because I curse on Twitter a lot. But it is, my Twitter name is @JeryeA. So Facebook and Twitter are the best.
Again, so I can put it on here.
Yeah. @JeryeA.
Hold on, let me make sure I typed it right. I'm gonna put it up on the screen.
Yep, that's it.
I'm waiting for it to come through. Okay. Yeah. No. We curse on this show all the time, and so far the church people haven't gotten me. So
not all the time.
I curse often because I get so frustrated with the government and like everything that's happening. So. Yeah, curse often on social media.
That's between you and your people.
That sounded like a directive.
Look, I got 2,100 followers, so obviously somebody's liking it. So,
yeah. Do you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Jeria.
Thank you, Jeria.
It's been a privilege having you here, and we hope to see you and everybody else back next week. I'm going to end the broadcast. Thanks for watching.
Good night, y'all. God bless you.
All right.